In this video, we're going to talk about a really important topic in Python called functions. And I want to introduce it by way of something that you're already familiar with, which is functions in math. So let's imagine that you had a function, a mathematical function called f of x. And so we want f of x to be, let's say f of x is x squared plus 2. There are a number of parts to this function that we kind of take for granted in math class. So first there's the name, and the name, of course, is just f, right? So this is the name of the function. And then we also have the x, right? And the x, we often call the argument to the function. In Python, we're going to call this the parameter. You have to forgive my handwriting. This is a little bit difficult on my pad here. We call this a parameter, and you'll see this in your reading, and you'll see this in the videos in the reading as well. But it's something I really want to emphasize so that you can understand how to translate from what you already know to Python in programming. Okay, and then here the last part of the function is what the function actually is, and we call that the function body. Okay, and this is what the function actually does. And so in this case, f of x takes the parameter x and squares it and then adds 2. Okay? And x, of course, is just a placeholder, right? It's a placeholder for a number that we're going to pass in. And then that function gives us a result, right? That is that number squared plus 2. And we have a variety of different names for these, some synonyms, right? So I'm calling this x a parameter, but you might also see it called an input, right? You're used to calling that the input to the function. That's the same thing. Okay, and then this function body gives the answer, and it produces the output, right? And so you've basically got this notion of a machine, right? Where you've got this little box, right, called f of x. And that box takes a number as its input and gives a number as its output. Okay? And so you can think of that function as a machine. And the output in this case is x squared plus 2. Okay? In Python, it works the same way. And the only thing you have to worry about is new vocabulary. How do we actually go about defining a function? So let's actually take the function that we've created, f of x equals x squared plus 2, and turn it into a Python function. And here's how we do that. So I'm in idle, in a new window, new untitled window, and I'm going to introduce to you a new keyword called def. And def is short for define. So when we define, we're saying define a new symbol. Okay, in this case, that symbol is f. Right? So we're defining the name. Okay, the name f. And then every function takes a what we call parameter list. And that's what you have here in the math expression as well, right? F of x. Well, in this case, x is our parameter. And so it looks identical to what you're used to in math. So we've defined a new symbol f so that Python knows what f is, and we've given the parameter list, in this case, the value x. And there might be more than one parameter to a function, but in our case, we're just taking one. Every def statement ends in a colon, okay? And following the colon is the function body. So you're going to notice something interesting. As soon as I hit enter, idle automatically indents. And so the reason for that is Python knows what's part of a function body by the level of indentation. So anything you want to be part of this function needs to be indented. Fortunately, idle does that for you immediately following any colon. So don't forget your colon. If you forget your colon, it won't indent, and that'll kind of be a red flag to you that you did something wrong. Okay, well, what do we want this function to do? We want it to calculate x squared plus 2. Okay? Well, x squared plus 2 is easy enough. Type x, and then if you remember the exponent is the double asterisk. X squared plus 2. Python will follow all the same order of operations that you're used to in math, so that's convenient and it works just fine. But here's the thing. X is our input, right? We want it to output, and in order to make the function actually output something, we have to put another special keyword in, and that keyword is called return. So I've calculated x squared plus 2, but in order for my function to send that back, I need to put return in front of that. And you can see return is orange, just like def is orange, because those are Python keywords. Great. This is now a complete function. This is the exact same function as our mathematical function. And if we hit enter, we see it unindents because it recognizes the return, and we've created this function. Okay. Now let's save this. We'll save this file, and I don't know, I'll call it function. Okay. And if we run it, well, what do we think is going to happen? If we run it, nothing happens. We look in the shell, it's just empty. Well, why is that? Well, because we didn't actually do anything. We created a function, but we haven't used that function. In the same way that we created a function, but we didn't ask the question, what is f of 1 or f of 2 or anything like that. And so Python has created this function, but nothing's happened, right? I could go into my shell now and use that function. Because I ran that program, my Python shell now recognizes what f is. So if we type f of 1, 1 squared is 1, 1 plus 2 is 3, and it returns the value 3. Notice the vocabulary I'm using. It returns the value 3, right? F of 2, 2 squared is 4, 4 squared plus 1 is 5, 4 squared is, 2 squared is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6, right? And so we get 6. And now we can ask the question, what is f of anything we want, right? F of 10, 102, okay? If we wanted to do that within our program, we can do that as well, right? So we can do something like this, right? We could ask the user, we could say number equals input. What number do you want to use for x? And then we could say print f of x is plus the stir value, right? We got to convert of f of number. Now, kind of doing a lot of stuff there, right? I'm asking the user, hey, what number do you want to use? And then I'm printing out in quotes the literal f of x is colon space, and then f. Now notice here, this is the key thing I want to point out. I'm passing in as the parameter the value that the user typed. And so it's going to return that value. That's an integer. I'm going to turn that integer into a string, and I'm going to print that out. So we can run this and see what happens. Save it. Whoops, I made a mistake. Where's my mistake? I missed a parenthesis. Right? So that was an end of file error. It was expecting a parenthesis. It didn't see it. What number do I want to use for x? I want to use 5. Oops, I made a mistake. What's my mistake? It says unsupported operand type for exponent, stir an int. Oh, so it looks like I tried to square a string. So let's take a look. Oh, well, number, I typed 5, but what's wrong with that? Well, input assumes that everything's a string. So we have to remember to convert that to an int. Close my other parenthesis, save it, run it, try it again, and I get an answer, right? And so don't be afraid when you get an error. Read the error, see if you can understand it. If you can't, come call me over, and I'll help you with that. You're going to do the next reading, which is all about functions, and it kind of reiterates some of the stuff I've said here. Ask questions if you have any questions about that. And I have another video for you on return values and on coding that. Take care.